A French presidential candidate can forget a birthday or a wedding anniversary, but not the annual Paris Agriculture Fair. It's the ultimate photo op for a nation that's proud of its peasant roots. And if the actual farmers sometimes perhaps can themselves seem like supporting cast members or extras with no speaking lines, they shouldn't. Since the recent deregulation of the dairy industry, for instance, their revenue has collapsed. And as distributors grow richer and farmers grow poorer, many in this election are turning to the far right's Marine Le Pen. But would they really be better off if she cut the cord with the EU? Right now, a full 38% of Europe's budget is devoted to agriculture, most of that for subsidies. There's another growing divide, though, in France. The land of haute cuisine is also a land of pesticides and factory farming. Campaigns by animal rights activists and demand from eco-friendly consumers have triggered unprecedented blowback and calls for change. But there's the question, is sustainable farming sustainable for the farmer and affordable for the consumer? Can French farming really reinvent itself? Today in the France 24 debate, we're looking at France's fights over food. And with us, Eric Martin, he's founder of Ag Industry Advisors, Agro-Stratégie and Prospective.
Hi.
Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
We'll also be joined in a moment from Digne-les-Bains in the French Alps by sheep farmer Geneviève Savigny, who's a spokesperson for the grassroots sustainable farming activists of the European coordination Via Campesana. Damien François is deputy manager for Accéréales, which represents wheat and grain farmers in the center of France.
Good evening.
Thanks for being with us.
Thanks.
And Guillaume Fourdinier, the CEO of Agricool.
Hello.
Is that how you say it? Agricool.
Exactly, Agricool.
Agricool, which in this case produces strawberries right here in the Paris area.
Exactly.
All right, we'll talk more about that in a moment. The France 24 debate, where you can react on Facebook and Twitter, the hashtag F24debate. You know that your campaign has trouble when you abruptly scrap a trip to the Ag Fair. That's what happened Wednesday morning to conservative François Fillon. However, once he'd announced that despite pending charges, he was staying in the race, well, as you can hear, he had to face the music. Now, that mix of boos and cheers for Fillon, with his campaign careful to keep a small band of supporters on his tail Wednesday, the Ag Fair can be a tough crowd, it's got to be said. Just ask centrist frontrunner Emmanuel Macron. He got egged on Wednesday, but he took it in stride, saying it's, quote, part of the folklore. Of course, whatever the crop of candidates, the yardstick by which to measure them is the all-time Ag Fair favorite, the former Gaullist president, Jacques Chirac. Eric Martin, has anyone ever equaled Jacques Chirac in the adoring eyes of farmers?
All the farmers like Jacques Chirac, as a famous president for the farmers, and he has a good president for to defend the agriculture in France and in Europe, and he can manage many things to defend the production and the economic system for the French.
Yeah, because it has to be said, farmers have a long memory, and in the early 70s, Jacques Chirac was the agriculture minister.
Absolutely.
And when he was agriculture minister, the common agricultural policy.
Absolutely, and Jacques Chirac likes to eat, likes to drink with the farmer, to speak with them, and to have a joy with them. So I think the biggest president for the five Republicans.
Damien François, when you explain what is the Paris Ag Fair and why all the politicians go to it, what do you tell them?
Well, maybe it's a particular day where you can explain what the farms are, because on the normal day, you won't see any politician in the French farms. Maybe it's too far away, maybe it's too muddy, I don't know, but they tend to forget what the farm routes are about. So it's a particular day because then the farmers can have a direct debate, not only with politicians, but also with direct consumers. And that's the important thing.
Guillaume Fourdinier, have you been to the Ag Fair this year?
Yeah, we went to see some medias and meet some people, because you have a lot of people going there for talking about farming. It's a really important week for the farming industry in France. But I don't have any booth there because we are really creating the startup for the moment.
And what's your view of it? What do you think of the ag fair when you go? Are you?
Well, it's really interesting because you see that a lot of people care about agriculture in France. You can see that a lot of people just like to go, and see some farmers and meet some farmers and talk about farming and eat and drink, like we were saying. So it's really interesting to see that farming is something that people like and something that they want to focus to see what's going on in the next few years.
All right. Sheep farmer Geneviève Savigny is not at the Ag Fair this year. You're in Digne in the French Alps. Thank you for joining us here in the France 24 debate. You're with the grassroots sustainable farming activists of the European coordination Via Campesina. Why couldn't you make it this year?
Well, this year I was busy with many other topics, including preparing the next CAP again, the new the new agricultural policy. And well, I'm not a sheep farmer, but a free-range chicken farmer, but it's just a detail. It makes no difference. I'm really in the south of France and with a lot of work at the moment.
You mentioned preparing the next round of the common agricultural policy, and that brings us really to the heart of the matter. The question is whether you want more or less Europe. We were talking at the outset of the show about the love that farmers had for Jacques Chirac. A lot of those smaller farmers are now switching allegiances away from the pro-EU conservatives and to the far-right National Front. Yuka Royer has the story.
Bringing her campaign to the world's biggest agriculture fair, Marine Le Pen said she wanted to listen to and help French farmers.
If you are elected president, what are you going to do for us farmers and for our sector?
We are going to have France's own agriculture policy, which means the subsidies will not be reduced, but distributed differently.
At this rate, we're all going to die.
That's why this presidential election is so much more important than in 5 years' time. If it continues like this, I don't know what's going to happen.
Promoting her protectionist and Eurosceptic views, the National Front's leader called for radical change, criticising the EU's common agricultural policy.
We need economic patriotism. We must stop letting the EU decide the future of our agriculture.
Under pressure from falling prices, some farmers found hope in the far-right's leader's promise.
She stands by us farmers' side. She listens to us and tries to improve the situation.
Do you think Marine Le Pen could show you a way out of your difficulties?
Yes, maybe.
Some protested at her visit, as others voiced doubts.
It's easy to say you have to eat French products. But if we want to develop, we have to conquer other markets. And she doesn't talk much about that.
Hoping to win over frustrated farmers, Le Pen spent the whole day at the Salon de l'Agriculture.
That was on Tuesday. Let me ask Damien, François, your reaction to that, because there seems to be this gulf, right, between small farmers who are getting battered, especially with the lifting of dairy subsidies, and the bigger farmers. This idea, she said, we're going to keep the European subsidies, but we're going to distribute them differently. Is that feasible?
Well, that's surely feasible, but the challenge is not if we prefer small farm or big farm or mountain farm or Great Plains farm. I mean, we need every kind of agriculture, and opposing different kinds of farming is not the good way, because consumers need to find a big range of products. They have to find, good quality products, but they also have to find cheap products. And it's not a good way to oppose different systems. We need to straighten all types of farming, in fact.
Geneviève Savigny, where you are, have you witnessed this shift in farmers' political preferences towards the National Front?
Well, not maybe around me. A lot of people that I know are more in favor of Jean-Luc Mélenchon, for instance, who is asking for a radical shift and who's taking into account the question of the environment and the problems of climate change and everything. What I think is for Marine Le Pen, she's bringing easy solution to difficult problems. And she's people who can trust her, they should not trust her because she's promising things she cannot follow, like giving subsidies. Where will it come from? A lot of products nowadays in France are sold in the internal market of Europe, and if we left Europe, a lot of countries that we are selling cheese, wine, things to us, they would not treat us with. They wouldn't treat us nicely, and probably we would have to taxes and things like that, and a lot of problems would happen to French farmers. So this is not a good solution. It appears to be a good solution because Europe has been so bad to small farmers, but not only to small farmers, to large farmers as well. With the dairy crisis now can't be considered as a crisis. It's a systemic problem. It's a systemic problem that we have to face. And we have to face it with a real solution, not with fake solutions like Marine Le Pen is proposing.
Eric Martin, this shift...
Just to be elected, in fact.
Do you agree with Geneviève about how this shift has come about?
The problem is not to have small farmers, big farmers, and I think we are in Europe, so we have a cap. The cap is defined...
Common agricultural policy.
Agriculture.
Yeah.
The cap defines all the agriculture in Europe. The difference is, in France, we have not the same level of reglementation that the colleagues in Germany, in Belgium, and Italy. It's just the difference. I think when I saw Marine Le Pen in a salon, I speak with her. What do you want to go out of the European Commission? We don't. That's the solution. The solution is to produce the good quality for the consumers. The consumer can find the good quality in the supermarket and we need to create a links with the consumers and the farmers. It's not to go out of the European Commission. It's not the budget.
She's played coy on that. She doesn't. No. She says, "Well, I don't really want to leave the."
I think she doesn't know. she does too.
All right. One of the keys is, and we talked about dairy farming. Ever since there's been the deregulation of the dairy industry, right now France finds itself, according to official statistics, half of producers earn 350 euros a month. In 2014, only 20% of farmers were earning so little. And there you see the eye of the storm last summer when there were big protests was one of the dairy giants, Lactalis, who after deregulations paid its suppliers less and less. Lactalis, which continues to turn tidy profits. Its boss, Emmanuel Beignet, is listed as the 9th richest man in France. And there really seems to be this situation, Damien François, where the problems in the agriculture sector mirror the problems of the world as a whole, where the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer.
Well, to my mind, it's not a definite problem. We can solve it by giving more power of negotiation. Co-ops are made for this in France. The French system of co-ops it belongs to farmers, and it's only farmers who are at the board. And then, they decide in their interest. Then they still have, the supermarkets to deal with. And it's right that the pressure, I don't know for the dairy market, but it's the same for all farm markets. The pressure is so high that even if you are a group of farmers, you will have still this pressure of price, only price, and not always the way of farming.
You think it's been a turning point, though, that dairy, the fact that the dairy farmers, their revenues bottomed out so badly that other sectors now are going to learn lessons from that if they do try deregulation elsewhere?
Well, all French farming products are not regulated now. It began with dairy products, but now it's true for cereals and will be true for sugar beet next year. you won't have any more regulation. So every farmer is in front of the direct world market, and the link between him and the consumer is very important. And this link is the distribution system in France, which has to deal more with farmers about the way they farm, because they cannot compete with a global market if you don't look at the difference in regulation they have. We have main problems of difference of regulation even inside the EU, because French farming has more and more regulations. French is top of the class for regulation in Europe, and we are compared with global, worldwide products which are not produced the same way. So if we take more into account
But isn't that regulation a good thing? It means labeling, it means the consumers know that it's quality stuff.
This kind of regulation, regulating the quality and the labeling, is a very good way of thinking agriculture, but not having a two-way of sizing it. If you want to talk with French farmers, you ask them to produce on a very green way, and then when you buy your products, you don't look where it comes from. And let's talk about GMO. In France, you know that in Europe, we are not allowed to grow GMOs. I don't have any opinion on this, but if you don't have to grow, then you shouldn't buy also abroad GMO products. Why not apply the same rules in growing and in buying and in retailing?
Is that the way to go?
Yes, maybe it's the way.
Should there be a ban on the import of genetically modified foods?
Well, genetically modified food is a big problem because I really agree on this point. You know, if you can't grow genetic modified products in France, you can't buy it somewhere else. And I think this is something that can be a bit scary. And I think you have new ways to grow now, and you have new solutions. So I think it can be interesting to think out of the box and maybe get new ways, think differently on this.
All right. We're thinking outside of the box, both for producers and consumers, something we'll be asking our panel about when we come back. You're watching the France 24 debate.